Peace and blessings, beautiful beings. Thank you so much for tuning in, tapping in, breathing, and thriving in this very moment with the Living in Spirit podcast. It is your divine host, Zayne Spirit. It is a pleasure to be here. And I've really just been in the joy of life, right? Like the joy of acceptance and moving on, moving forward, right? Like there's a lot of resistance oftentimes to letting things go. And I am at a point in my life where I'm no longer refusing. I don't have room for the tension that I used to have in terms of resistance to change. I've always been adaptable, but there's, obviously still things that I have been resistant to in my life. And I just take these moments to recognize that there's so much more for me on the other side of resistance, on the other side of letting go of resistance and embodying acceptance. There's so much more for me. And a part of that resistance that I was in um, was really around my own success, my own success, the things that deconstructing old thought patterns about what success looks like, right? I do that very often, is where I reconstruct what things look like for me to the renewal that I'm in. So if I'm no longer the same person, I clearly need to revamp my idea of what things are, right? Like what does love look like? I go back with that a lot. Like, is this unconditional? Is this infinite? Is this in my purest of vibrations? Am I coming with the purest of intentions? Am I leading my life in a way that is true to me? And I often find myself reestablishing what those things are, as far as like what is success, what is my relationship with wealth, what is my relationship with myself, most importantly, and just coming into a place of acceptance that I'm always going to be growing. I love something that Shaman Durek said on one of his lives. And a part of that was that we're always going to be hypocrites. um, he was talking about having a conversation with his spirit team and with himself. And they were like, he just came into this realization that he was a hypocrite, right? And his spirit team was like, yes, yes, this is it, this is it. Like they were celebrating him recognizing that Shaman Durek is not always going to be the same. He's going to change, right? And that was profound for me because I think there's a lot of conversation about like, well, are you being real? Are you being fake? Are you, you know, do you have the mask on? Do you have the mask on in your life? And truthfully, being in our most authentic self means that we're going to constantly be changing. We're going to constantly be hypocrites. The thing that I liked yesterday, I may not like today, and that's okay. The thing that I might have lived and died on the hill for is no longer what I may live and die on the hill for. And that level of shape shifting scares people because it's not consistent. It's not consistent. Being a hypocrite is not consistent in the way that the security, the false security that we have with tangible things, right? And I loved that moment, not only for Shaman Durek, but for myself as a reflection, is recognizing that I'm always going to be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, but I'm always gonna be shifting. I'm always gonna be evolving. I'm always gonna be coming into a place of curiosity in my life. My life deserves my curiosity. I deserve my curiosity, my inner child who loves to play and explore and change. That divine child deserves for me to provide a safe space to grow, right? And we are our ultimate safe space creators in our life. Mm. Thank you to the spirit of the water. We are the ones who create the safe space for ourselves. We are the one who places the protection. We are the one who allows freedom or doesn't allow freedom, on the flip side. So there's a lot of, there's so much power. There's so much power in that, recognizing that you're always going to be changing. The acceptance of that has helped me evolve a lot in recognizing that certain relationships that felt good to me aren't going to feel good to me forever. Certain people may not resonate, certain places, certain stages that I'm in my life will not be here forever. Like they're not going to be here forever. And that's the importance of being present with it. If I'm present, whoo, baby, I'm getting the fullness of the experience, right? I'm getting the fullness of my life when I am present, when I am right here, when I am nowhere else, but soaking it in, but breathing it in, but experiencing every last bit of the energy that has presented itself to me. Like that is reciprocity to myself in this life. I'm going to go ahead and bring us into an affirmation for our podcast. And may it sit with you. You may have to rewind and re listen. And may it serve you, most importantly. I allow seasons to change and the cycle of all things to take place. I know that endings will always bear beginnings. I attract what is in alignment with my highest good in each moment and surrender. I'm going to repeat it for you. I allow all seasons to change and the cycle of all things to take place. I know that endings will always bear beginnings. I attract what is in alignment with my highest good at each moment and surrender. Mm. Breathe that in. Mm. I am at ease. I am at ease with that. Usuniyayitiam. Tokandi shialayamayikiani. Tuluesiania dawalayamburu. Mm. Take that channeling with you. Take that channeling with you. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you to my highest benevolent spirit team, my spirits on my team. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm in so much gratitude. I have a lot of new updates for you guys. A lot of moving and shaking in my life, which is why I have brought forth the importance of being adaptable to the changes, the changed person that you are, the changed being that you are, the ever evolving and infinite. You are infinite. You are infinite, baby. You are infinite. And that infinite means that there is infinite possibility, infinite growth. And I love that because we're conscious. Consciousness is always going to evolve in some way, shape, or form. But the updates that have been going on have been really wild. My May was my the end of my April going into May was really crazy. And I say crazy because I so much success, so much success, so much. I was booked up for the entire month of May. Like barely could squeeze anybody in May, which was beautiful. I'm so grateful for all my clients. Thank you. We released the energetic body contouring service, so I have new services on my site. Um, I'm super excited about that. So many people have come with testimony of feeling, lighter in their body. They feel more connected to their body. They feel more confident. Their communication with themselves is deeper, and they're happier to see their vessel. And that always brings me joy. Of course, with the results as well, that they look and feel better within themselves, right? Um, and I love that for all of my clients. We had tons of those sessions in May, and I'm grateful. We still got it's rolling over. We still got plenty of sessions in June taking place as well that are part of the energetic body contouring service. And so, shout out to that. Shout out to y'all. So we did start that. Soul Drive and myself were, excuse me. Let me get this throat chakra together, y'all. I've been taking my herbs from Heart Root Healing, and she's actually going to be on our podcast, Natasha. Y'all are gonna see her very soon. That's a little exclusive. And so I've been taking her herbs, and the mucus has definitely been coming out. So yeah, bear with me, and we just celebrate this purging taking place in my throat, and in my body. All right, we celebrating that. But as I was saying, we were featured on Shout Out Atlanta. So I was interviewed for their magazine, so I'm grateful for that. Lots of success in that, very much so deserved, and just in gratitude the way that whole situation came out. Shout out to Styling by Chi, Hello Chi. She's the one that recommended me to Shout Out Atlanta, so I have to give her her flowers. Thank you for that. And she was also on the podcast. That was I think it was episode 10 and that dropped in May. So y'all can actually go and listen to that episode as well. Lots of exclusives here. But she's so dope, and I'm grateful that she recommended me because that was such an honor. In addition to just books being booked up and the magazine feature, we've also made 5K on our Facebook Soul Drive Global page. So thank you for that. Our text service is growing in numbers. So thank you guys who subscribe to the text service. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the newsletter on souldriveglobal.com. We're well over, um, I think it's 800, 900 people. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers on the actual newsletter subscription. So thank you, and please tell your friend. Tell your friend you get a monthly energy read. There's so much available for free, like so much stuff that y'all have access to through Soul Drive. And y'all's support is exponential. So thank you. Thank you. And if you're subscribed to my text service or the newsletter, you can actually have access to the sacred space, which is a tab on souldriveglobal.com. And it's a password encrypted, so it's only to my subscribers that get access to it. And you'll find some free sound healings, access to channel messages, different techniques that you can use for visualization, cleansing, and protection. Lots of different things, lots of rituals that are released on there, and so on and so forth. So, definitely tons of movement, tons of motion taking place in our brand and in myself and the way spirit is moving in my life to create. And so I do have some other things that I'm working on that will be coming to surface. I know I have been promising this recipe book for a long time, but you guys are definitely going to get a recipe book by the end of the year. And whew, excited for that. Excited for that. It's going to be grand. It is grand. And when y'all see it, y'all are going to be so lit. Yeah, y'all are going to be so lit. So, yeah, that's my little update. That is my big update, actually. I had to transmute that energy. That was my big update. And just in so much celebration for that. Um, the big thing that I wanted to talk about during this podcast in particular is grief and how, although I'm very present and excited to introduce these changes in my life, right? There are things that I'm having to let go of. There are, and this has always been in every stage of evolution in my life. And I feel like it's in every stage of everybody's life, is that we have to let go at some point. We have to say goodbye to certain things, even if they were good to us in that moment. Even if they were, even if what we were experiencing was good to us, that doesn't mean that it's meant to be with us forever. And a lot of the times we're seeking to hold on and grasp the good things. It's like kind of like trying to put sunshine in your pocket, right? Like you're trying to take it with you. But you got to enjoy that sunshine, that sunshine. You got to enjoy that sunshine. You got to enjoy that sunshine while it's present and shining at you, right? Like giving you warmth. Be present with it. And then the night will come. And then eventually the sunshine will shine again, you know? So there's a cycle in our life where as we make room, because a lot of us don't recognize that we have to make room for our abundance, like the things that we want in our life. Like we want these big things, but are we ready for it? Do we have the space for it? Is our attention in spaces that would do us a disservice if we had this new thing in our life? Sometimes it's never about are you going to have it. Like you're always nine times like you're always gonna get what is divinely for you, right? Like whatever is divinely for you will always come through. Now, are you going to place resistance to change or are you going to flow with the change? Anytime I have placed resistance in my life, the outcome has been a lot more painful than what is needed. And I also recognize that sometimes that resistance was due to a lack of healthy grieving coping mechanisms, not knowing how to grieve things in my life properly, grieve people, grieve places, grieve connections, grieve opportunities. Like we have like this taboo dialogue with death in our life. And I believe that our conscious collective is now in a space of accepting that death will come, right? That death just is. And death always comes with rebirth. And in exploring those themes, we recognize that we must be reborn several times in our life. We must be reborn. We must be. We must be shifting and outgrowing and reborn to receive and to be in a place of reciprocity. And one of the hardest things that, I feel like we discuss grief a little bit when it comes to our loved ones transitioning, but we don't talk about grief proactively happening in our life. We don't talk about grief happening while nobody has passed, while nobody has transitioned. Like, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about grief on a emotional, just as an emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual concept that is important, and it's very indigenous to us. Like, it's in our DNA. So many of us do have rites and rituals to rebirth. We do have coping of letting go and moving on. But for so many of us, it's been buried. Our traditions have been buried. Some of us are cultivating like new traditions for grief, and that is important too. Is that when we decide that we need something, or when something has been lost, and there's now something that needs to be in the place of that, we get innovative and we create our own rites and rituals to let it go. And a lot of that looks like writing whatever you're letting go of down on a piece of paper and burning it and letting it be a part of a fire ceremony, or journaling and crying it out, or taking the time to do so. I remember, well, I don't remember this, but I do remember my grandmother doing a lot of these things. Was that she would, one time I had went through this very traumatic situation. It was actually the it was right after I was molested from my cousins, and I was probably about 5 years old, maybe. And I remember coming home, and my grandmother, like, I just wouldn't stop crying. And my grandmother, she offered space for me to talk about it, but she also allowed me to feel. And then what she did for me was she lit up a fire in the backyard and over the fire pit, and she tied nine, I think it was 7 or 9 knots in a rope. And she prayed over each knot. And she spoke that with each knot, the removal of my pain would take place, and the soothing of my soul would be present for me to move on, and to move on from a piece of me that I had lost. And I never opened up to anyone about what had happened until I was an adult, right? So she didn't even consciously know because of me. She knew because she let spirit guide her in that space, right? And she threw those knots in the fire, and she held me, and it burned. And then she said the next day, I woke up and I was fine. I had let go. I had let go of what was bothering me. And thinking about that ritual, or those rites of passage, even into a new space, a new beginning, a new version of me, even at 5 years old, I was being reborn. I was being reinitiated in spaces. And I was learning about grieving parts of me that I didn't quite know how to comprehend into physical words, into verbal words. I didn't know how to articulate what had taken place or why I felt the way I did, right? And because of that grieving ritual, because of that space that was held for me, I was able to move forward. And I actually had chosen to forget about the whole situation until I was grown, until I was in my 20s. And so, I thank my grandmother for that. I thank myself for who I was in that moment and that vulnerability that I had, and also that willingness to move on and know that I am greater than no matter what just happened, right? And so I celebrate that divine child in me um, who knew that things were going to be okay regardless, and that I was able to articulate those feelings and move forward. Not all of those feelings were articulated. I mean, clearly I had to re-grieve a little bit as I got into adulthood, but that situation and so many other situations in my life have taught me that we are in deep need as a collective of care and safe spaces for grieving and grieving coping, to actually honor ourselves, to honor versions of us that we are letting go, to honor the people, places, and things that are no longer moving forward in this next stage of life with us. And that's I mean, we have to come into a space where we allow, we have a respect for that version of us that is going to miss whatever we're letting go. And even if whatever is good for us is better, that saying, like, you can let go of it now because there's going to be better, in the future. And that's true. Like, Spirit has definitely made it known that anything that is not for me now is opening up for greater in my life. So I'm not saying that it's not a factual statement or not something that I haven't experienced, because I have, but I don't want to take away from the things that I'm feeling in grievance and the way that I'm honoring my emotions in that moment, as well as the version of me that I'm letting go in order to move on. Because letting go of letting go of a job may not be, something that you you feel very strongly about or strong enough to grieve. But for someone who has spent majority of their old self, being in a place of, well, this job, is my livelihood, it's survival mode for them, that could be, like, something that they have to honor in order to move forward. They have to honor that version of them that needed that job to show security in their life and to also provide stability while they gain confidence in their spirit. So, like, everything holds purpose, and we honor the journey, no matter if it was temporary, if it was for a moment, or if it was for 10 years. You have to honor who you were at every stage and what all of those things brought to you, right? Like, when I was letting go of imprinted souls, that was my first company, my first love, my first creation, um, for philanthropy and entertainment. And it was what brought me so much. It was what helped me cope while my mom was in an abusive relationship. And while I was dealing with those hard emotions of feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, um, my radio show and the things that I created in that space, I held on to it for like 7 6 7 years. And even when it wasn't going anywhere, I was holding on like teeth and nails, like, in, because I didn't want to let it go. I didn't want to let imprinted souls go. I got it tatted on me for y'all who can see the camera. I got it tatted on me. It was my first tattoo. Is Imprinted Souls. And it was because I held so many dear memories with it, and I was having to part with it. It took me a year in between Imprinted Souls and for me to come up with Soul Drive because who I was grieving. I was grieving Imprinted Souls. I was grieving that I wasn't a radio host. It took me years from I'd stopped doing radio. This podcast, I knew that I wanted to go back into podcasting from Imprinted Souls because that's what I did. I did that for years. I loved that. I made so many brilliant connections. I discovered so many parts of me. I expressed pieces of me that were so vulnerable in those spaces. How could I not love that part of me? How could I not have like some sort of attachment to it, right? And attachments, they're not, they keep us where we're at. And letting go of attachments prepares us for renewal. It prepares us for something that doesn't have to compete with that place in our heart. It doesn't have to um, compete with our attention, right? Like if I would have kept Imprinted Souls but tried to do Soul Drive, it would have been a mess. I would have been stuck in the past. And I'm grateful that I took time to really figure it out because I was going through it. I was going through letting go of a baby that I created, a creative baby that I created, and that's okay. Now, and back then, I didn't have like grieving mechanisms. I didn't explore the concept of grief during that time in my life. I just knew that I was not okay, right? um, and so I say all that to say that it doesn't matter. Even in themes of relationships, I have had to let go of some really good relationships. People that I vibe with, people that I love, like, ooh, people that I share unconditional love with on a way that, it's only a reflection of divinity, truly. And I've had to let those go because we weren't in alignment with what's coming next. And that taught me a lot. That taught me a lot. And I had to grieve letting those connections go. Even I had to grieve the ones that weren't good for me, and I had to grieve the ones that were. And grief is a consistent in the process of change. Grief will always live in that process of change. And it's not discussed. It is not honored, especially in our Western world, where we put people in a box underground to, I don't know, preserve their body. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of ideas and discomfort in the Western way of, and maybe that's not even Western, maybe that's European. The European way of funeral or burials, it don't feel right to me, right? So like I have a lot of ideas about that, but also in the process of honoring our emotions, grieving, being present with them, like I don't want them to linger on forever in a way that is anything but a memory, anything but something that I can reflect on and smile at, in recognizing like, wow, I really did create Imprinted Souls and I really did have a great time and I really did expand myself in those spaces and I made so many good connections and I worked through, I chose an outlet. 16-year-old me chose an outlet instead of being, you know, hyped up on smoking weed in the back alley, and ain't nothing wrong with that now. But smoking weed in the back alley and drinking alcohol and doing drugs, like that was I didn't choose that method. I didn't choose to be in our hoods, getting caught up in the silly gang relation things that was going on. Like I chose not to be a part of those things, even though they were options for me. And that goes to say that not all good grieving options are good options, right? Like they might not be productive towards your life. And there's no shame. There's no shame in those spaces. If you did choose to grieve in a way that was detrimental to your health, your mind, your body, your spirit, there's no shame in that, because we all experience those things for a reason. We all deal with things differently. And there's no shame there. I don't hold shame for anybody or judgment. And I wouldn't even hold judgment for myself if I went that route. But I am proud of myself that I didn't. I'm proud that I started a radio show instead to gain community, because I didn't have community. So, I took the things that I was feeling and I created something different. I created something that would be, I found the root of what I was looking for, and I expanded on that idea. I expanded on what that meant for me. And in the spaces where I was grieving relationships, I wrote about it consistently. I had one relationship, friendship, that I was letting go, and it was really important to me. And we weren't able to salvage our friendship from that. And I wrote about this person for like probably 30 days to almost 2 months. Probably a month to 2 months, I wrote about this person consistently, about things that I was learning about our situation, ways that I could have showed up for myself more, ways to honor myself more. I just analyzed the situation and was like, I didn't live there now. I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to live there. But what I did want to do is let it all out. Because more importantly, instead of me living there, I didn't want my emotions to live in my body and cause me dis-ease. We don't realize that when we hold this stuff in, it stays in the body. Our body, those cells remember. Those cells remember. And they hold on to that energy unless you let it go. And the best advice I can give you is to not hold emotional visitors in your body. Do not hold emotional visitors in your body. Because if you do, dis-ease will wreak havoc. Why do you think people who don't deal with their heartbreak end up with heart problems? Why do you think people who don't deal with shame or issues with their womb area end up with issues in their yoni or issues in their phallus or whatever the case may be? Why do you think that people end up with lower back problems because they don't deal with their childhood trauma? It's because that's where the trauma lives. Everything decides to create a home somewhere in the body, energetically. And if you don't deal with it, it will live there. And emotions are meant to be temporary visitors and not permanent residents. Emotions should not be permanent residents in your vessel. They will possess you. Emotions will possess you if you allow them to. And it's important that you don't, nah, you can invite your emotions over for dinner, right? You can get to know them. You can address the conversation with anger, like, where did it come from? Are you mad at this person, or are you mad at my dad for not ever coming back? Is this really an abandonment issue? Abandonment, let's talk to you. Like, you can have tea time, you can have dinner with your emotions, but don't let them start changing your thermostat. Don't let them start rearranging your rooms, rearranging your organs. Don't let them bring that nasty ass energy that and let it seep in there, because that's not it. You're gonna have a funky old odor in your colon. Okay? That's just what it is. And the more that I explore these themes of grievance, the more I explore letting go, the more I explore adaptability and flexibility to change and release the resistance, and I surrender to that. Surrendering is something that we talk about a lot, and a lot of us ain't doing, and that's okay. It is. It's still. I'm still in the active practice of surrendering all the time. Just transmuted that. I am surrendering. I put my hands up. I surrender. I surrender. I let go. I let it be what it is. Because at the end of the day, this is my vessel, and I can choose what lives here. I can choose. I can allow myself to either get possessed by emotions, or I can take my power back. I can take my power back. I had to take my power back from the situations that left that I left feeling powerless, disgusted, shameful, guilty. And I had to grieve those parts of me and say, I love you anyway. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. That's, gratitude for every part of you that has come and came and went. Gratitude for every emotion that you have felt. Gratitude for every interaction that you have encountered. Grateful for every situation that you have been in. Because, woo, those things, they'll teach you. You'll gain wisdom. And you'll come out knowing more of who you are, more of what you want, and how to be curious and flexible and to surrender to the things that are good to you in your divine alignment. Whatever is in alignment with you. Whatever is in alignment. And as I'm saying this, like my left ear, it's got that little zoom. And that's listen to your intuition. It'll help you to navigate your situations so that you are not as attached emotionally. Emotional intelligence takes practice. To be able to feel the emotion and to also extend yourself outside of the emotion and to ask, where did this come from? What provoked this emotion? Why are you here? What is the root cause of this emotion? That takes a lot of practice, but you got to do it proactively in the moment. Like, when you are angry, take a step back from the conversation and be like, I'm going to come back to this when I'm feeling calm, right? That's an active choice. That's a proactive choice in the moment. And that creates a healthier environment for inner dialogue as well as dialogue with everybody else involved. And it teaches you how to proactively deal with things in the moment. A lot of my grieving processes are not as long as they first started out being. But to grieve something in the moment that it's happening is so powerful. And it's choosing to live presently with your feelings, to honor them, to thank them, to hear what kind of messages they're bringing you, and then to move out and say, you know what? I'm grateful for what this has shown me. I am in gratitude for the joy that I have had with this person, or the back and forth, whatever the case may be. I'm in gratitude and I'm now open to letting it go. I'm letting it go for my highest good. I'm letting it go for the alignment of what is for me right now. That's powerful. That's you calling your power back. That's you being proactive in your power. Is that you have a choice. You have a choice to live there or to evolve and grow. And whenever you're proactively grieving, don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid to admit what you feel. Don't say you're good when you're not. Like we have to stop lying to ourselves, lying to each other. And the moment we take these masks off, we decide that we're going to be authentically to ourselves. We're going to be authentic to ourselves. We're going to live in our truth. That makes grieving so much better when you are not trying to. We don't have the energy to put on a front. We just don't. I ain't got the energy to put on a front. I'm gonna tell you like, hey, I'm going through some things. I'm grieving. I'm letting it go, and that's it. But I think that this should be talked about more with our kids. Kid, man, if this would have been introduced to me truly, I mean, thankful for my grandmother for showing me that, or for the things that my mom did to help me like move on from things, right? But grief in its entirety, in its whole concept, was not taught to me early on. It was something that I had to develop and develop an opinion on, like develop an experience on. And I feel like our community needs grieving coping mechanisms. We need grieving safe spaces. And that was one of the reasons why I became a birth and bereavement doula. It's because I wanted to help people who were miscarrying or having, babies who come out the womb and they're not there, like stillborns, and to be present with those families and to also honor that baby, because a lot of people, they let go of a child and they want to pretend like they never even was pregnant. They want to pretend like they never had a connection with that baby. And that's not healthy grieving. It's not healthy grieving to pretend that it didn't exist. That does not heal the womb. That does not heal us. To pretend does not heal us. And I just implore everybody listening to stop pretending that it didn't happen. Stop pretending that you're not phased. Stop pretending that it doesn't hurt. That things, like, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, because we all deal with loss of some sort. We deal with loss all the time. Not necessarily every day, but all the time. We deal with the themes of loss and then rebirth. Long death and rebirth are consistent themes in our life, and they will always be. It's not just about dying when we're 90. It's about dying and being reborn every single day, sometimes more than once. So be present with yourself. The more present you are, the more present, the more you will work through the grievance and actually honor the process and gain everything that you need to from it, so that you can move forward in knowing that you were genuine to yourself, knowing that you held space for you, knowing that you honored whatever it was, and now you have the open space to move forward. Because if not, you're gonna be, if you don't grieve properly, you're not gonna hold space in your heart the same. You're not gonna open up space in your heart. You're not gonna love from that place of abundance. And it's all interconnected. Truly, it is. So I love you. The divine loves you. I want you all to know that you are so loved, even in your moments of grievance, even being possessed by your emotions. I love every part of you, every version of you, and you should too. You should love you, all versions of you, and continue to be present with these versions of you. Continue to explore and be curious of who you are in this moment. We are all hypocrites. We are all one moment one thing, and then the next we are not, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with change. I am encouraging change. I am embracing change. And I am embracing the surrendering that is needed for change to take place. I will see you guys next time. Thank you for tapping in. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, Soul Drive Global, as well as our monthly newsletter and our promos on souldriveglobal.com. You can tap in with our text free number, which is in the description box. And I thank you to everybody who is listening and being present and also sharing these most beautiful, vulnerable moments with me. I am in so much gratitude. I will see y'all next time. Peace and blessings, y'all.